Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I seek a motion that we approve the agenda, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend the agenda. I have two items I would like to add to the agenda. The first one would be to add back on the District 3 tax assessor appointment of Ms. Cynthia Butler. It was taken off the agenda, and I would like to add that back under the consent agenda as we have been doing for decades.
You making that in the form of a
Yes,
motion?
I move that Ms. Cynthia Butler be added back onto the consent agenda as the tax assessor appointment for District 3.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion by Commissioner Sanders and second by Commissioner Henderson. Any discussion?
Yes, sir. Just to give you a little bit of information, I'll try to make it brief, but it's a lot of information. My appointment was taken off of the agenda, and I was told that it was taken off per instructions of individuals in the county. Every year or every 6 years, each commissioner has had the opportunity to appoint their individual from their district for the tax assessor board. But when it came to 2023, when it's time for District 3 to make their appointment, the tax assessor board contacted our county attorney to deliberate to try to change what has been done over years. I have sought information, I do my research. For decades, this appointment has been placed under the consent agenda with no discussion, no legal interference. The individual that's currently on the tax assessor board has been on the board for 24 years in District 3 and does not even live in the district currently. And if he's watching, Mr. Berry, I truly thank you for your service. For 24 years, that's remarkable for a resident to donate their time and their efforts to be on the board. But I do think it's fair that residents have the opportunity to sit on a citizen board and have that opportunity to serve their community. As I look at the board, now as we are taught as commissioners, we're taught the perception thereof. And I'm only going to speak on the perception thereof. If you look at the board consists of 5 males. The only individual that is a female on that board is the secretary. So are we stating that a female cannot sit on the tax assessor board, the perception thereof? Why in 2023, when District 3 is wanting to put their appointment, now I've been asked for a whole year who my appointment will be. I was asked, Commissioner, did you want to do it in November? Did you want to do it in December? And as soon as I sent my appointment, all HE double hockey sticks broke loose. And so that is an issue. It goes back to 2021 when there was an appointment for me to become vice chair that rolls over. I was the first commissioner ever to be placed on the agenda and discussed if I had the qualifications to be vice chair when it has been put under the consent agenda for years. I am the first. So it's kind of like having PTSD is going back. So in regards to that, I have pulled the minutes. I have pulled all the information. In 2017, when Mr. Berry was appointed, he was placed under the consent agenda. It was motioned by my predecessor, Nancy Schultz, under the consent agenda, and it was seconded by former Commissioner Sims, unanimous vote, no discussion, no attorney involved. So this is why I'm asking for my constituent who to be placed back on the agenda, who was contacted and asked for all of her information to attend the meeting tonight to be acknowledged as the District 3 appointment for the Tax Assessor Board. Thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. That motion failed. Thank you. Next on the agenda is item 8. Mr. County Attorney, thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to stand up to disincentivize myself from going too long because my legs will get tired. So, as you're aware, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Board of Tax Assessors. I want to start by sort of at the beginning and just tell you what the duties of the Board of Tax Assessors are. The Board of Tax Assessors exists for the purpose of identifying and assessing the value of all taxable property, real and personal, within Newton County, and they also exist for the purpose of creating and submitting to the state of Georgia on an annual basis the tax digest. And the tax digest sets forth the total value of all of that real and personal property within the county that is subject to taxation. The qualifications to serve on the Board of Tax Assessors are set by state law, and it's relatively minimal. You are required to be 21 years of age or older. You have to be a high school graduate or recipient of a GED. You have to live within the county within at least 6 months of being appointed, and you have to complete on an annual basis mandatory education requirements. Actually, not annual. You have to complete your initial training within, I think, 6 months from your appointment, and then every 2 years you complete 40 hours worth of training. There are 6 members of the Board of Tax Assessors in Newton County, Georgia. State law provides that you must have between 3 and 6. Newton County has 6, and they serve 6-year terms. The main reason for my presentation is to discuss the appointment process. And before I talk to you about the appointment process, I want to tell you how it's been done. For at least 20 years, as Commissioner Sanders said earlier, for at least 20 years, Newton County has treated the appointment of members of the Board of Tax Assessors on a district basis. And what I mean by that is there has always been a member appointed from District 1, from District 2, from District 3, District 4, and District 5. And those members have been appointed primarily, if not exclusively, upon the nomination by the district commissioner and the placement on a consent agenda and approval by the board. And my firm was requested through my partner, Aaron, from the Board of Tax Assessors to review that process and advise the board whether that was the process that the state law and local ordinances called for. Georgia law provides very little guidance about how appointment process is done, but it is very clear in one regard. Georgia law provides that members of the board are to be appointed by the county governing authority. It takes a majority vote of this board to appoint any member to the Board of Assessors, and that is a function of state law. There is a provision in the county code that provides that the Board of Assessors is appointed at large, which means across the board of the county, not by individual districts, by the chairperson subject to approval by the Board of Commissioners. So if that provision is applicable, then essentially the chairman nominates people and this board votes for who should or shouldn't serve on the board. Neither of those procedures for the appointment of members of Board of Assessors call for or require individual district appointments. Now, I'm not saying that it is illegal to do that. I'm not saying that. I'm not suggesting to you that it is illegal for the Board of Commissioners to sort of agree among itself that we're going to defer appointments to one another, and we're going to appoint the person that you choose or you choose or you choose. What I'm saying to you is that's not what the law says you have to do. How you get from nominating a member, or after a member is nominated, what the law requires is that that member be approved by a majority vote of the Board of Commissioners. How you nominate members is really up to you. How you decide what the nomination process is, who makes the nomination, how you decide among various applicants, that is entirely up to the board. What I want you to understand is, while for the past 20 years it has been done on a per district basis, there's no legal requirement that it continue on that basis. If that's what the board chooses to do, then so be it. If the board chooses to do it otherwise, then so be it. It's entirely up to the board. Something you might want to consider if the individual district appointments are not satisfactory going forward, something you might want to consider is just opening a nominating period. Allow anybody, any of you, any member of the Board of Commissioners to nominate someone place all of those nominations on an agenda and come in and vote on them one at a time. That way, everybody has an opportunity to nominate. If you choose among yourselves, for instance, if an opening comes up and the board chooses among itself to allow District 2 to make the nomination, there's nothing that would prevent you from not making a nomination. There would be one nomination, the board would vote it up or down. There's nothing to prevent you from deciding among yourselves that everyone wants to make a nomination and you want to vote them up or down as they go. And I think the reason that's important is, unlike every other board that's appointed, not every other board member that's appointed, but the majority of the board members that are appointed, especially the boards you create, are intended at the outset to kind of walk in lockstep with you. Your planning and zoning member, your zoning advisory board member, your, pick the advisory board, they are intended by their very creation to serve you as an individual commissioner, to help assert your agenda, to help inform you of what's going on below you among those other boards. That's not the case with the Board of Tax Assessors. In fact, the term of the member of the Board of Tax Assessors is 6 years. Yours is 4. The Board of Tax Assessors stagger in a way that doesn't correspond with the way you stagger. And that's by design. And the reason it exists that way is because of the role of those appointed members. Those appointed members make the decision, subject, of course, to appeal, how much everybody's property is assessed for the purpose of paying taxes. It is intended and it is created to create some separation between you, the elected officials, and the appointed members of the Board of Commissioners. I would suggest to you that the reason that there is that separation is because you are directly answerable to the public. You get voted in and out of office. And there's tremendous incentive. Obviously, I'm not saying many of you do this, but there's tremendous incentive to keep assessed values low in order to keep taxes low. And that's the reason I think the Board of Assessors is kind of separate and apart from the Board of Commissioners, both in terms, both in appointment processes, and frankly in duties. Their only duty is to assess taxes. That's all the Board of Tax Assessors do. Your role in the tax process, obviously, is setting the millage rate. That duty rests with you. It rests completely with you. So that's the information I wanted to make sure you all knew. I want to be able to say that you are making whatever decision you make fully knowledgeable of what the relevant law is, that you are proceeding, if we look at the windshield and the rear view mirror, obviously the rear view mirror is there for 20 years. Every member currently serving on the Board of Tax Assessors, including 2 that were approved in October of last year, were appointed by this per district process. It is a procedure that is not necessary. It's not called for under the law. But if that's what y'all choose to do, you can choose to do that. And if you choose to do it another way, you can choose to do it another way too. Again, my recommendation is consider some process where there is a period of open nominations. The board makes nominations. They're all placed on an agenda and you vote on them. And as long as they satisfy those minimum requirements, and that's the reason I mentioned those minimum requirements, there's no requirement that you confirm unless you want to. I mean, obviously, you can certainly inquire into people's educational and professional backgrounds, but the only requirements is over the age of 24, high school graduate or the equivalent, live in Newton County, and they have to commit to complete the training. I'm happy to answer any questions any of you might have, address any concerns you have.
Commissioner Sanders.
I just want to clarify, on the website, Newton County website, and the residents can go and look up the tax assessor board, the Board of Assessors. There are 5 members, 1 for each district. There's District 1, Mr. Marvin Manor, Mr. Vernon Bell is District 2, Mr. Charles Berry is District 3, Johnny Blackshear is District 4, Kevin E. Mitchum is District 5, and Victoria Hardy, who is our assistant, I think a deputy tax assessor, I believe that's her title. Forgive me if I got your title incorrect. She's the secretary. So there are 5 members on that board. So as you mentioned, I was given documents since 1980. They've been doing this since 1980. And as Patrick stated, as you mentioned, 20 years, but it's been over 20 years it has been done this way. And so my question would be to you, Patrick, why now, and you may or may not know the answer, but I just want to put it on record, Why now in 2023, when it's time for District 3 to make their appointment, that there's an issue when we just recently, a year ago, appoint a tax assessor to the board?
Yeah, first of all, you may be right. I may have misspoken about 6 and 5. The answer to your question, and we talked about it last week, I don't know. I was asked to perform the task I'm performing. I was asked to ensure that this board is aware of the law surrounding the appointment of the board members to the tax assessor's office. As we discussed, I wasn't aware at the time, and probably still couldn't name the members of the Board of Tax Assessors. I wasn't aware at the time how many were up for reappointment. Someone else in my office handles that. And it's not something, you're right, it's not something that normally comes to me. But the request was made of me to ensure that this board understood what the law called for, how that process was contemplated under Georgia law. And that's the only reason I'm sitting up here in front of you today.
I want to put on record, in 2021, I was informed about my tax assessor appointment. And I was informed by residents that our tax assessor appointment didn't live in the district. And unfortunately, at this time, it has nothing to do with Commissioner Edwards' district, because he appointed his own. We have 2 people that represent District 1 currently on that district. That has nothing to do with the commissioner in District 1. The person that sat in this seat before me appointed that individual. And so in 2021, I conversed with our county attorney, actually 2 county attorneys from the law firm, 2 county attorneys. And so one of the things that was stated to me, I said, well, my tax person doesn't stay in my district, so what can I do at the particular moment? And so I was informed. She said, well, call him to see if he will resign, and since you're a new commissioner, see if he'll allow you to do so. But this is what I was stated, and it was our county attorney, Megan Martin. She said, just an FYI, that I'm sitting down with this now to figure out how we can get your choice in as a member. I plan on asking the member to step down, but my understanding is Mr. Berry can be a bit difficult. I take a run at it, never hurts, right? And that came from our county attorney. Then I received a call from another county attorney, well, one of our attorneys from the law firm, Mr. Vaughn, who said, Commissioner, I understand that would like to have someone represent your district, that you know what's going on. But he said, you will have to wait, because they've been doing it on the consent agenda in the 6 terms. You have to wait until December 31st, 2023. I did that. So now we're here. I've been asked for a whole year. Now I understand why people have been asking me who my tax assessor board person is, because once I submitted it, I think Monday before last, got calls and Patrick had to get involved. Now they want attorneys to say we've been doing it wrong. And the Board of Commissioners has been doing this for decades, almost 3 decades, the same way. So it should not even be a question at this moment. Even with me sitting on this board right now, I voted with the consent agenda of those members being on the tax assessor board for each district making their own appointment. So it does look like the perception thereof that there is an issue and there's a problem. Mr. Berry was appointed by Commissioner Danny Stone in 1999. And I constitute different years of what I was doing in 99. I was in my senior year in college at Grambling State University. In 2005, he was appointed again by the same commissioner. In 2011, he was appointed by Commissioner Esther Fleming. And then my predecessor reappointed him under consent agenda the same way in 2017. And as I stated, I don't know who Mr. Berry is personally. When he came up to me at a meeting that was at the FFA camp, he came up to me and said, I want to stay on the board. Honestly, I had no idea who Mr. Berry was until they mentioned he was one of the sponsors. And one of my board members was with me. I said, oh, that's Mr. Berry. So this is not a personal issue, because I don't know him personally. Never had a conversation with him besides him saying he wanted to stay on the board, and then I was asked to give him a call to see if he would resign, although that conversation wasn't pleasant because he already had preconceived notions that I was calling. He was already informed I was calling. So this has been happening over the years. So the question is, why are we changing it in 2023? Our board, I'm sorry, I hear somebody talking. Our board member was appointed in 2020. A board member was called by our clerk to confirm to be here at this meeting today that they will be appointed by Commissioner Sanders as the next person to represent District 3. I thank you, Mr. Berry, for serving 24 years. But is that fair for a resident on a resident board not to be able to serve on this board? And this Board of Commissioners has been doing the same thing for over 20-some years. But now we get to 2023 when it's time to reappoint someone for District 3. That's the problem.
Thank you. I just had a question. Patrick, County Attorney Patrick, doing your, I guess, presentation, you said that somebody asked you to bring this up, and I just asked for information purposes, and since that's public, who asked you to bring this up?
Yeah, as I mentioned, it was my law partner, Aaron Meyer, he is the attorney in my office that handles tax assessor items. So he and I had a conversation that, I think we were at lunch, and he said, hey, listen, I need your help with something. He told me what it was. I said, I'll do it. So it came from Aaron Meyer. Now, I have not asked Aaron, what was the behind the scenes conversation? I did not ask him that. It wasn't relevant to my presentation to you today for my purposes.
Yes, and I'm gonna I'll be quick, Mr. C. I think it's very important to know who asked that question, because as long as I've been on the board, and I'm the old man, I guess, and I am the old man on this board, and it had always been done that way. Now, I'm gonna say this as far as Mr. Barry. I like Mr. Barry. He's a good person, but I cannot go against the district commissioner as far as who she may want to represent her district. Lastly, it's only been 2 times that something similar to this has been done. The solid waste committee, they changed it and said that it had to be everybody vote for my representative. And for about, I think, 15 years, I haven't had a person on the solid waste committee. And then Commissioner Sanders. Thank you.
What's your recommendation, sir?
Yeah, my recommendation is, Mr. Chairman, open up nominations and perhaps just ask for nominations by, a week before the next meeting, or maybe a meeting after that, and put them all on the agenda, let the board vote on them. That would be if you want to abandon the district by district procedure, if you want to go with a different way, just do that. Put them up there, let board members vote. Ultimately, whoever makes the nomination, ultimately, 3 hands have to go up to appoint that individual.
Okay.
So, there's nothing I can do about how people vote. And so in my mind, the best way to get an affirmative vote and put a human being on those boards is to have more than one nominee and let the board vote up or down.
Okay. And do we need a motion to, we don't need a motion to do that?
I don't think you need motion. You control the agenda. You have the ability to put what goes on the agenda. You could just ask for nominees and say you'll just put them all on the agenda and have a discussion and a vote.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sanders.
Yes, I would like to make a motion for Ms. Cynthia Butler, who was stated in the beginning as the appointment for District 3 to represent on this board as tax assessor.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? It's not on the agenda. No.
I think you can interpret her motion to be
Yeah.
a motion to amend the agenda
Yeah.
and to approve it, and I think you can just do it all at once.
Hey,
It
let's
yeah.
vote it up or vote it down. Vote it up or vote it down.
Well,
All-
just
no,
to,
no.
Okay.
I'm gonna call them for the vote. This is what you asked for. All in favor? Any opposed?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. This is against the parliamentary procedures. This is completely against parliamentary procedures. This was already done at the very beginning of the meeting to amend this agenda. That motion failed. We
Actually, it
cannot
did.
come to an actual agenda item that is for a discussion to cause it to be adopted or to have a vote on it. We just cannot do that. That's against parliamentary procedures. So I'm calling point of order right now. We cannot do this. That is against Parliament's Robert's
actually,
Rules of
Mr.
Order.
Commissioner Edwards asked for it to be placed on the agenda, and he was told that we were going to do it now.
Let's do this. Let's clean up any question. Let's make a motion to amend the agenda to add that question. If that motion passes, then make that question the motion. That
There-
would be the appropriate way to do it. It's okay to vote on something more than once in
Yes,
a meeting.
you can amend the agenda within the
Is there,
agenda.
is there,
So make, yeah, make that, make, if,
Yeah.
my
moved.
recommendation would be make a motion to amend the agenda.
And I wish we would have
Is-
complied
listen,
with Commissioner Edwards in the beginning.
guys, are we gonna, listen.
I'd like to make a motion
it's
to
on- it's a
amend the
motion on
agenda.
floor.
Well, he just told us.
It's a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Is there a second? If we stop talking so much and listen, that's the problem. Won't
Point
nobody
of
listen.
order, point of order.
No, this is the point right here. Won't
There's-
nobody listen.
No, you're not making.
There's a
There-
motion and a second to amend the agenda to add Miss Cynthia Butler as the District 3 representative. All in favor? Okay. All opposed? Okay, all opposed. Mr. Commissioner Young, you got your hand up? It failed 3-0. Okay. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna receive names, just like the county attorney said, we're gonna receive names. We'll give a name, and that's how we'll proceed forward. And we'll vote on it at the next board meeting.
I want to make sure that this, and we already know this is on record, this is actually being recorded, how discriminatory this looks. It looks very discriminatory. And I just want the board to recognize what they just did. Because each board member from District 1, 2, 3, no, 1, 2, 4, and 5 had their appointments and put them under the consent agenda, and it was approved without any discussion or any conversation. So I just want you to be aware of what just happened here, how discriminatory it looks, and be prepared for the lawsuit.
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda. Guys, next is consent agenda.